So you want to own a gym? You picture the early morning light coming through big windows, members checking in at the front desk, the sound of weights hitting rubber flooring. Somewhere in the back, a steady stream of direct deposits landing in your account every single month. It's a clean picture. It makes sense. Fitness is one of the few industries where the demand never really disappears, where people sign up in waves every January, and where the product essentially sells itself. You've walked into gyms that looked packed, watched trainers moving between clients, watched the front desk staff barely keeping up with the check-ins. Thought the same thing most people think. This must be printing money. Here's the problem with that picture. You're looking at it from exactly the wrong angle. The part you can't see from the front door is the part that determines whether the whole thing survives. The dream of owning a gym usually starts not with business logic, but with personal experience. Someone spends years in a gym, develops a genuine love for the environment, watches a mediocre facility charge decent money for a poor experience, decides they could do it better. That instinct isn't wrong. But the gap between being a great gym member and running a profitable gym business is wider than almost any other industry you could name. A passion for fitness doesn't translate automatically into knowledge of commercial leases, payroll management, insurance liability, or cash flow planning. And that gap is exactly where most new gym owners first get into trouble. Usually before they've opened the doors to their first paying customer. Before you can sell a single membership, you have to build something that's legally allowed to hold exercising human beings. That's where the first shock arrives. A raw commercial space is not a gym, it's a box. Turning that box into a functional facility means rubber flooring capable of absorbing the impact of dropped weights without cracking the concrete underneath. That can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000 depending on square footage. Locker rooms and showers require moisture-resistant wall materials and properly engineered drainage, adding another $10,000 to $50,000 on top of that. Floor-to-ceiling mirrors run $3,000 to $12,000 once professionally installed. And then there's the ventilation system, which almost nobody budgets for correctly on the first pass. Building codes require roughly 20 cubic feet of fresh air per minute for every person exercising in the space. Run that number on a 5,000 square foot floor with 100 people on it, and you need an industrial HVAC system capable of moving over 2,000 cubic feet of air every single minute. That system alone can cost $10,000 to $50,000, and you haven't bought a single dumbbell yet. Stack the security deposit, the renovation costs, the permits, the insurance binder, the opening marketing campaign. A cash reserve to survive the first few months without a full membership base. A mid-size independent gym can require somewhere between $300,000 and over $1 million just to open. That's not a rumor or a worst-case estimate. That's a realistic range for a standard commercial facility in a moderately competitive market. And that's before the equipment bill arrives. Equipment is where the second wave of sticker shock hits. A single commercial-grade treadmill costs between $2,000 and $8,000. You need at minimum 6 to 12 of them just to cover a basic cardio section. Selectorized strength machines run $1,000 to $5,000 each. A properly outfitted gym floor needs between 12 and 20 of them. Add power racks, free weights, benches, cable systems, the accessories that hold all of it together. The equipment total for a mid-sized facility lands somewhere between $40,000 and $250,000, depending on what you're building. Then comes the decision that trips up almost every first-time owner. Do you buy outright or do you lease? Buying means no monthly financing payment hanging over your head. But it drains your cash reserves during exactly the period when you need that cash most. Leasing keeps your capital free but carries interest rates around 8% annually, meaning you'll pay meaningfully more than the equipment's actual value over the life of the agreement. The lease payments don't pause if your membership numbers disappoint. Neither choice is cost-free. You've simply decided which kind of financial pressure you'd prefer to live with. Now, here's where the monthly overhead turns what looked like a manageable situation into something more demanding. Rent alone typically consumes 25 to 35% of a gym's monthly revenue. In high-demand urban markets, that can mean $8,000 to $12,000 a month in lease payments, before you've paid a single staff member. Payroll is the second largest line item, usually running another 20 to 30% of monthly costs. This assumes a lean team. Add utilities, which run between $1,000 and $1,500 per month for a mid-sized facility. Liability insurance at $500 to $1,000 monthly, cleaning and janitorial services. Software for membership management and billing. Ongoing marketing spend, and you're looking at total monthly operating costs that regularly run between 75 and 85% of gross revenue. That is an extremely thin margin for error. It doesn't yet account for the expense that quietly drains independent gym owners more than almost anything else. Broken equipment. A treadmill belt on a home machine might last a decade. The same belt under daily commercial use can wear out in a fraction of that time. When a popular cardio machine goes down in a busy gym, the owner faces an immediate repair cost of $150 to $300 for a technician visit plus parts, or a replacement cost of $2,000 to $8,000 for the unit itself. That's the visible cost. The invisible cost is the 2 to 3 weeks of downtime where frustrated members notice the out-of-order sign, start skipping workouts, quietly begin asking whether their membership is actually worth the monthly charge, A mid-sized gym with 40 to 50 pieces of cardio equipment and 60 to 80 pieces of strength equipment can easily absorb $10,000 to $15,000 in simultaneous repair costs during a high-usage month, completely eliminating whatever profit margin existed for that billing cycle. Independent gyms, unlike chains with bulk service contracts and manufacturer relationships across dozens of locations, negotiate these repairs one machine at a time and pay retail rates to do it. The membership model itself is the thing most people completely misunderstand before they get into this business. Picture every person who signs up falling into one of two categories. The first person shows up 4 times a week, uses the showers, puts wear on the equipment, takes up floor space during peak hours. The second person joins in January with genuine intentions, comes twice, then keeps paying monthly for the next year without setting foot inside again. Which of those two members is more valuable to the gym as a business? It's the second one. Not because the gym is trying to deceive anyone, but because the economics are straightforward. The regular member costs the gym real money on every visit: hot water, towel laundry, equipment wear, cleaning, and capacity. The inactive member costs the gym almost nothing while their monthly payment arrives without fail. Industry data consistently shows that roughly 2 out of every 3 gym members rarely or never use the facility they're paying for. That is not a side effect of the business model. That is the business model. This is why a gym with 6,000 members doesn't need a floor that can hold 6,000 people. It only needs space for the fraction who actually show up on any given day. A typical commercial gym floor might be safely capped at 200 to 300 occupants. If even 10% of a 6,000-member gym arrived simultaneously, you'd have 600 people trying to occupy a room built for a third of that number. The fire marshal would have something to say about that fairly quickly, so the gym sells memberships to far more people than it could ever physically accommodate, counting on the statistical reality that most of them won't come at the same time. A substantial portion won't come at all. Understanding this is the single most important step toward understanding why gyms price the way they do, market the way they do. Quietly prefer the member who pays and disappears over the one who shows up every single morning. Seasonality sits on top of all of this and makes the cash flow picture even more complicated. Roughly 12% of all annual gym signups happen in January alone. Gyms spend heavily to capture that wave. Discounted joining fees, trial offers, aggressive advertising during the first 3 weeks of the year. The result is a genuine surge in revenue. For an inexperienced owner, that surge can feel like confirmation that the business is working. Here's where that feeling becomes dangerous. Around half of all new members stop attending within 6 months of signing up. Of the people who joined specifically as a New Year's resolution, up to 80% have stopped showing up by the time summer arrives. Revenue that felt like a new baseline in January turns out to be a seasonal spike, if the owner spent it accordingly. The quieter months of May through August can arrive with fixed costs unchanged and membership revenue meaningfully lower. The owners who survive this cycle aren't the ones who earn more in January. They're the ones who treat January's income as a reserve to be protected, not a windfall to be deployed. Competition from low-cost chains adds another layer of pressure that independent owners can't negotiate their way around with passion or personality alone. A franchise like Planet Fitness charges $10 a month. That number isn't a loss leader. It's a fully engineered business model built around enormous membership volume, minimal staffing, facilities that don't offer anything beyond the basics. When a potential member in your neighborhood is comparing your $40 or $50 monthly rate against a $10 option down the road, you'd better have an extremely clear answer to the question of what they get for that difference. If your answer is just better equipment or friendlier staff, that's probably not going to be enough to close the gap consistently. The independent gyms that survive direct price competition from budget chains aren't trying to beat them on cost. They've stopped competing on cost entirely and built something specific instead, a community centered around a particular style of training. A coaching relationship, a specialized format, or a member experience that a 1,000-person warehouse model cannot replicate. That question of positioning leads directly into what separates gyms that survive from the ones that close before their second lease renewal. The data on this is fairly consistent. Boutique gyms, meaning small facilities built around one specific format or training philosophy, tend to outperform general-purpose commercial gyms on retention. Members who join a gym for a specific reason and find a community of people with the same specific goal are far less likely to cancel than members who joined a generic facility because it was convenient and cheap. Research shows that members with 3 or more social connections inside a gym are significantly more likely to still be active a year later. 2 meaningful staff interactions per member per month can cut cancellation rates by up to 33%. And members who set clear fitness goals during onboarding show retention rates around 94% at 9 months, compared to the industry average that looks considerably less encouraging. None of this is accidental. The gyms with strong retention numbers have systems that create these outcomes deliberately. Owner burnout is the part of this conversation that the financial models don't capture. Running an independent gym in the early years often means being the manager, the salesperson, the maintenance coordinator, the marketing department, the front desk staff simultaneously. The physical space demands attention around the clock. Equipment breaks on weekends, members send emails at 11 at night, staff call out sick on the busiest morning of the month. The person who opened the gym because they loved fitness often finds themselves doing almost no fitness related work at all, spending their hours instead on lease renewals, software subscriptions, insurance claims, and staff scheduling. The burnout rate among independent gym owners is not a minor footnote, it's a primary driver of closures. It's almost never captured in the startup cost estimates that circulate online. So, what does it actually take for an independent gym to work? The ones that make it tend to share a few characteristics that show up consistently, regardless of size or format. They know exactly who their member is and exactly what problem they're solving for that person. They don't try to be a budget gym and a luxury gym at the same time. This was because that positioning exists nowhere. They build onboarding processes that connect new members to other members and to staff quickly. This was because the research is clear that the first 90 days determine whether someone stays for a year or cancels in month 4. They treat their slow season cash position as something to be engineered during peak season, not scrambled for after the fact. And they reinvest consistently into the facility instead of extracting early profit. This was because a gym that starts showing its age loses members to newer competitors before it loses them to better priced ones. The revenue math on a well-run independent gym can actually work. A facility with 300 to 500 active paying members at $40 to $60 per month generates $12,000 to $30,000 in recurring monthly revenue. That is enough to cover operating costs and generate a real profit margin in a reasonably priced market. Add personal training packages, class packs, merchandise, or corporate wellness contracts, and the revenue picture improves further. But reaching that membership level takes time, usually 12 to 24 months of sustained member acquisition before the numbers stabilize. Sustaining it requires the retention systems, the community building, the operational discipline that many first-time owners underestimate or simply don't have the background to implement. The insurance piece alone is an example of how many hidden line items exist in this business that don't appear in the simple version of the plan. General liability coverage, which protects against a member injuring themselves on your equipment and suing, typically runs $500 to $1,000 per month. Add workers' compensation for staff, property insurance for the equipment itself, a separate professional liability policy if you're offering personal training. The monthly insurance stack for a mid-sized facility can easily reach $1,500 to $2,000. That's before you've considered what happens when a claim actually gets filed. In a business where people are lifting heavy objects and running on machines, claims eventually get filed. Marketing is the cost that independent gym owners most often underestimate in year 1, and most often cut first when cash gets tight in year 2. A new gym has no word of mouth yet, no review history, no organic search presence, no existing member base to refer friends. Building awareness from zero requires real advertising spend. The number that most industry benchmarks suggest is somewhere between 5 and 12% of monthly revenue allocated to marketing on an ongoing basis. For a gym generating $20,000 per month, that's $1,000 to $2,400 spent every single month on paid advertising, content creation, local partnerships, promotions, even after the gym is established and growing. Cut that number when cash gets tight and new member acquisition slows. That means the members who cancel during the slow season aren't being replaced. That means revenue drops further. That means the cut to marketing made the cash problem worse rather than better. After everything here, the fair question is whether you'd still want to do it. The honest answer is that some people absolutely should. Some people absolutely shouldn't. The difference between those two groups has almost nothing to do with how much they love fitness. The gym owners who build something real tend to be the ones who went in understanding that they were building a subscription business with real estate, people management, retention psychology at its core. They treated the fitness piece as the product and the business operations as the actual job. If you're looking at this business with clear eyes, a realistic capital plan, a specific idea of who your member is and why your gym solves something for them that the $10 chain down the road doesn't, the willingness to not pay yourself much for the first 2 years, it can work. The real question isn't whether the gym industry is viable. It clearly is. The question is whether you're building a gym or just buying yourself the most expensive gym membership you've ever had.